What are we doing? What are we doing here? Last episode I said we're done with games that are not called Final Fantasy. This game is not called Final Fantasy. Also, this is the tactics wall. What am I doing on the tactics wall? We're done with tactics. All right. All will be answered. We've tackled plenty of games on the show that are not Final Fantasy games, but were called that, usually in the West, to promote it more and get more sales. This game is a unique case because it is a Final Fantasy game. But they just didn't call it Final Fantasy. I've researched, there's no reason for this. They could have called it Final Fantasy Crystal Defenders. They just didn't. I don't know, did they plan on this being like a big spin-off sub-series thing? I have no idea. Point is, it's just Crystal Defenders. You can tell by the font, it's clearly a Final Fantasy game. You take one look at it, all of the assets, all of the music are reused from Final Fantasy Tactics A2 Grimoire of the Rift, therefore making this game partially a part of the Ivalice Alliance. Therefore, I'm back on the tactics wall. This is a cheap WiiWare PSN Xbox 360 store game. They sold for like $8 to $10. There's a bunch of different versions. They put it on the phone. It's a little tiny tower defense game. It's the cheapest game I've talked about on the show. There is zero story, just nothing. Like, you start the game and it's just like, there are monsters, attack them, and you jump into level 1. There are 12 stages in total, but you play through each map twice each so they can pad more time, and each level is just a slightly different variation of enemies coming in, and you don't really have to change your tactics much, so you're kind of just playing each level twice, and then you're done. Now, I did play the WiiWare version of the show because Dolphin is easier to emulate than the others, so I just did that. They, for some reason, split this game into 2 releases, Crystal Defenders R1 and Crystal Defenders R2 for $4 each. But they're the same game that was released on the other consoles at full price. I don't know why they did that. This game, there's just something weird about this game, all the decisions they made. But the Wii version in particular is just incredibly cheap. You'd think the Wii would be able to handle this game about on the same level as PS3 and 360 because it's just a 2D basic thing. But no, this game looks and feels and sounds like a free browser game some guy made in his basement. Remember those days? Playing online tower defense games on Armor Games or Newgrounds or anything like that. It sounds like, feels like just a guy who liked Final Fantasy, so he took assets from that game and made a little thing of his own out of it. It's so ridiculously cheap. But let's jump right in. The gameplay. Well, have you played a tower defense game before? If you have, you've played this game. There's nothing really new that the Final Fantasy name adds to it. Maybe that's why they didn't call it Final Fantasy. Instead of towers, you have like these classes, these units with jobs. So instead of towers, they're like different jobs, but they do the same things that the towers do in every other game. So you have your melee towers, who are the stronger ones, but they can't hit flying enemies. You have your archers who can hit flying enemies. You have mages who are also ranged, but they're a little bit stronger than archers. They're just not as fast, but also some enemies will be magic resistant, some enemies will be physical resistant. You have to have a good balance. The time mage, which will slow people down, which is very useful. The Dragoon, which is the classic, like, expensive tower that you put in the middle and has a huge range, but is very slow, but very strong. And you never really need it, but you put it there because you can afford it, because you're, like, overpowered at the end of the level or something like that. The one thing that really stood out that made the game extra fun was the Thief tower job, unit, whatever. What could Thief do in a tower defense game? Well, he's a tower that you place, just like any other, but he doesn't really attack, he just has a range. And then anybody who dies within that range from another tower, he steals extra money from. And this is the basis of all of my strategy. This is the one game where the Thief class was my favorite class. I usually never care for Thief, because he's just like all speed and no attack. But this one, oh man, he's the foundation of being overpowered. He is how you break this game. Because you can upgrade towers from level 1 to level 7. You can get them ridiculously strong, increase their range and all that. But special towers like Thief can only level up like 4 times. But with Thief, you level up his money multiplier each of those times. So you just plop down a Thief or 2, max him out as soon as you can, and you have less space to work with than you do money. By the end of these levels, I am just swimming in units. I have nowhere left to put them, and I have 1,000 coins. Units cost 2 coins to place, like 3 to upgrade for the first upgrade. I have 1,000 coins. What do I do with this? Yeah, the game was incredibly easy. At least R1. The first half, R1 is very, very easy. R2 does pick up the difficulty. They reskin some of the jobs to make you think that the game's a little different, but it's not. Like, you use a hunter instead of an archer. That was kind of unnecessary. But R2 changes the difficulty because in R2, most of the levels have 2 areas where the enemies come out. And if you played a tower defense game, you know that's a lot harder to manage. They also added crystals to R2. You can put crystals, and whatever unit is around the crystal will benefit from whatever it offers. Either the red crystal of power, the blue crystal of range, which I rarely ever used, and the yellow crystal of speed. The most threatening enemies in this game are the ones that go really fast. So if you can match your units to be fast, and then have one of the most useful things to do is put 2 slow guys next to each other, max them out, and put a bunch of speed crystals next to them. So the slow people are attacking enemies with slow fast, and they're just like, the enemies are not moving. My main method for most of these levels was called the Boys method, as I named it. You wait for the enemies to cross a crossroads, a particularly tough chokehold point. You put the boys down, just a row of highly max leveled soldiers. You put a bunch of crystals behind them. You make the crystals have a longer range so they fit everybody. You make them fast. And then you put like 2 thieves on the other side of the crosswalk, and no enemy can beat that. It's like impossible. Everybody converges there and dies. There's 2 thieves stealing 3 times the gold each at the crossway. I've won the level and it's not even halfway over. This game is like easily breakable. That method was almost infallible. And it didn't even take a long time to figure out. I just thought like, well, the enemies go here, soldiers are strong, thieves give me money. Guess I'll do this. And then that was the rest of my experience, just doing that for the rest of the game. Now R2 does increase the difficulty a lot. For some reason, there's a difficulty option in R2. You can choose easy or normal, and I did normal. It was still pretty darn easy. The meta of the game really just depends on where are you putting your thief, because I did lose a couple rounds towards the end. And it's only because I did place a bunch of strong guys near the beginning, and they didn't reach my thief in time. So I couldn't get the money, and I couldn't, keep getting more and more and upgrading. So eventually the enemies just powered through. I didn't have enough money to hold them back. So what I did was I created another The Boys method where I put like 2x2 of archers max out level, and then I looked to how far their range went, put a thief right there, because I knew they would destroy enemies right there, and then that's all it took. Like, then I was swimming in cash again and had no problem. That's it, man. Like I said, 12 levels you play through twice each and the game's done. This is the shortest game I've tackled on the show. This is the cheapest, both in cost, but also like in development very clearly. It's just, I don't think there's a single original thing in this game, graphics wise, aside from like the map. They drew a line where the enemies go and everything else is reused. But hey, nothing like a cheap little palette cleanser between the last one and what's coming next, which should be a little more exciting. Is this game an $8 value? Not that that's relevant anymore, because you could emulate it for free very easily like I did, but is it worth playing at all? No. I kind of had fun when I was swimming in cash from the thief, but like otherwise, this is the most basic tower defense game. It's as basic as they come. There are so many tower defense games. If you're into that, You could probably find a better one on armorgames.com. Like, just look a little bit. I'm sure Balloons Tower Defense is like a better game. This game did get improved though. The graphics are better on the PlayStation and Xbox. They're even better on the phone remake that came out, Crystal Defenders Plus, which is known as the definitive version of this game, but it was on the phone and is dead. So now there's no definitive version of the game. In fact, you can't play it really without emulating unless you dig out your old PS3 with PSN, and you can still get it there, I guess. This game also got a sequel, Crystal Defenders Vanguard Storm, which looks like it changed up the gameplay significantly. You like drag around the units, and they come from the left side, and you have to keep moving them to hit the enemies before they make it to the end. Looked kind of interesting, but that is a phone exclusive game, and is therefore not playable. Totally dead. I won't be covering Crystal Defenders Vanguard Storm, so sorry about that. I'm sure you're crushed about that. And dude, that's it. You know what? One of the quickest, one and done, that's it. Tower defense game with Final Fantasy in it. That's it, that's the conclusion. This should be the shortest video in the series, except for like the first one. I can't believe the first Final Fantasy video I made was like 8 minutes. That's insane to think about. How did I only talk about that game for 8 minutes and thought that was good? I don't know, man. I gotta remake that video. No, I'm not gonna do that. But next time, next time. This video should be coming out a day before the release of a certain entry in the compilation of Final Fantasy VII. That might be next. Or will it? I'm playing this game. I'm recording this like a week before the video comes out, so maybe I'll beat something else in that week. I don't know. I have to figure it out. But next time, either way, whether it's Crisis Core or something else, we will be talking about Final Fantasy VII. Stay tuned.